Welcome to UMath. I'm Seymour Skinner, principal of Springfield Elementary School. So we're going to be talking about volume today, and specifically the volume of a rectangular prism or rectangular solid. So let's actually define what volume is. When we talked about area in previous lessons, we said the area of a two-dimensional shape like this square here is how much space it takes up. Well, volume is kind of the same idea, but now we're talking about a three-dimensional shape like here, and it's how much space this three-dimensional shape takes up. So that's what we're talking about when it comes to volume. So volume has a length, a width, and a height. When we did area before, we said, well, the area of a square or a rectangle would be length times width, or side times side. Now to find volume, it's similar, but there's one extra dimension, so there's one extra step that's actually involved. So our formula would be V, no surprise, equals length times width, and now we have the extra dimension height, so times height. So that's actually our formula for calculating the volume of a rectangular prism. And one way to help you remember this formula, ta-da, I call it little white horse, length times width times height. So let's actually look at a question here. You can see it right here. You've got a shape here. Oops, let's make sure it's focused. Okay, so we have a rectangular prism here with a length, a width, and a height. So we are going to use the numbers that they've given us on here. This is right from your book. So it said the length was 5 centimeters. The width was 4. And the height is 3. So nice simple numbers to start with. So we begin with our formula. I have to write these down for every question that you do for volume. Write it down, and then we do what we do anytime we get a formula and are provided with numbers. We just plug in the numbers. So the volume equals the length. We put a 5 where the L is, times, because there's nothing in between, the width, which is 4. Put that right underneath, times the height, h, which is 3. Now, once again, in multiplication, does it matter which order you do them in? Absolutely not. 4 times 6 is 6 times 4. So you could do them in whichever order you want. You could do 5 times 4 first, or you could do 5 times 3 first. But in this case, I'll go 5 times 4 is 20, times 3 is 60. And we must get the right units at this point. We're talking about centimeters. So we write down centimeters. Now when we did area questions, all the area questions, because it was a length times a width, there were 2 dimensions, we had squared in our answer. Now because we've moved on to 3-dimensional forms, we have a length, width, and height. There are 3 dimensions, so we put the cube sign, the little 3, after the units. So anytime you do a volume question, you'll have a little 3 after the units, whatever it is, inches, meters, centimeters. But make sure you include that because there's 3 dimensions. Another way of looking at it as well is if you actually look at this example given here. Let's maybe zoom in a little more. Make sure that is. You can actually see that every 5 they made a mark, every 4 for the width they made a mark, and every 3 for the height they made a mark. And they broke it up into sections or cubes. So that's another way of looking at it, that if we counted up all these cubes here, we would come up with 60, which is what we got for an answer. That's another way to help you remember that it's cubic units or units cubed, because you think of how many little cubes are in there. So looking at today's lesson, there's actually a number of questions that you'd be crossing out. Oops. Just leave you with Seymour here. Questions to cross off for the lesson will be on page 340. Cross off in the practice problems 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In problem solving, number 2. On page 341, sharpening skills, cross off 6, 7, 8, 9, 17, and that's it. Make sure any questions that need formulas that you include them, and your calculations. Other than that,
that was easy.